Imagine opening a photo album, a real one worn at the edges, thick with time, heavy with meaning. Maybe it's tucked away in a drawer, or maybe it's one of those things you'd rush to save if your house caught fire. Not because of the paper or the prints, but because of the life it holds. It's more than just a collection of pictures now. It's a mirror, a memoir, a map. In its pages are stories. Your mom's life, beginning from your grandmother's pregnancy, the awkward smiles of your dad's childhood, bits of your own first breath, birthdays, blurry reunions, and stolen everyday moments that no one thought to stage. Now, imagine this album being shown to you across different stages of your life. As a baby, it was nothing but colors and shapes. A blur of faces, patterns, warmth. It held no story, no continuity, just texture, sensory noise. As a toddler, the album became a toy, something to touch, chew, bang on the table. If you saw a dog, you barked. A plane zoomed. The language hadn't caught up yet. At 3, you recognized familiar things. Mama, house, ball, yellow. Some things had names. Others were just exciting blobs. All grandpas were the same, Lolo. A truck might be a train. And, honestly, it didn't matter. The world was still wide, soft, and new. By 5, you asked more questions. Where am I? What did they say about me here? You pointed to yourself. The rest was noise. Some photos you skipped, others you examined with curiosity. But you didn't yet seek meaning, you sought answers. Any answer would do. You didn't yet care what was true, only that someone replied. Around 7, captions caught your attention. Facial expressions sparked feelings. You liked certain faces, disliked others, created entire backstories based on a smile or a pose. You wanted to know who was who, how you were related, where you fit. Eventually, somewhere between childhood and the preteen years, the album faded into the background. School took over. Life moved faster. The album became a prop for class projects, or something you'd revisit only when you were feeling bored or nostalgic. Some pictures were torn out, framed, or lost altogether. In adolescence, the album started organizing itself in your mind. Categories, timelines, vibes. Summer feels, back in the day. Mom's college years. That weird aunt. My first heartbreak. It became a scrapbook of labels. Useful, but still incomplete. Then you hit young adulthood, and something shifts. You start seeing more than faces. You start feeling the weight of presence. You look at a smile, and remember the voice behind it. You see hands, and remember the meals they made, the hugs they gave. You notice absences, people who've left, relationships that faded. You trace stories backward. What happened to her? Did they ever reconcile? How did we even drift? The album grows heavier, not in mass, but in meaning. As you grow older, your gaze softens. What once was a messy collage now begins to speak in a quiet kind of poetry. You find yourself lingering over certain faces, some you used to dislike, some you now grieve, some you finally understand. You see sacrifice where you once saw routine. You see brokenness where you once saw failure. You see love disguised as discipline, fear disguised as silence, tenderness hidden behind awkwardness. And just when you think you've figured it out, life throws you something unexpected, a loss, a betrayal, a moment of awe, and suddenly you're back at page 1, looking with new eyes, reading between the lines. The album becomes not just a series of moments, but a living witness, a slow unfolding, a reminder that understanding rarely arrives all at once. Sometimes it arrives only when we've become the kind of person who can finally receive it. It comes in seasons. It takes a lifetime. And as you mature, you begin to see not just consistency in how things were, but coherence. Patterns you couldn't name before now show up like old friends. Lessons you dismissed as irrelevant suddenly become anchors. Stories become symbols. What once felt foreign now resonates. What once confused you now holds you together. And this is the shift. When the album no longer just tells you about life, but helps you see it. You no longer look just for yourself in the pictures. You see others. You see legacy. You see the quiet unfolding of something greater, deeper, like someone had been speaking all along. Only now you finally have the vocabulary to listen. You begin to understand that it wasn't the absence of meaning, it was the absence of resonance. The meaning had always been there. The message didn't change. You did. What once passed you by, now pierces. What once made no sense, now feels like a whisper you were born to hear. And so the album, what used to be just a thing you grew up with, becomes sacred. It's not something you outgrow, it grows with you. And over time, it becomes not just a record of what was, but a revelation of what always was. The album never changed. The one reading it did.
Perhaps that's why I had to write this parable. It became my way of describing how we come to understand truth itself. It isn't really about a photo album. It's about how our capacity to perceive meaning grows with us. And that's true of life, but it's also been true of my faith. In faith, real conversion doesn't happen at the level of intellect alone. Information alone doesn't convert, revelation does. If conversion happened at the level of intellect alone, there would be no hope for the mentally ill, the uneducated, the elderly, or the emotionally overwhelmed. But listen to the stories of people who have been truly transformed. Rarely do they begin with rituals or religious rules. Instead, they often describe the same quiet pattern: information, revelation, transformation. Information becomes revelation. Revelation becomes transformation. But revelation is not the arrival of new information. It is the unveiling of what the information had been pointing to all along. And transformation begins there, not with belief alone, but with the reality to which that belief points. Because it is meaning, once truly perceived, that changes us. Still, in the middle of it all, there is wrestling. Revelation doesn't simply ask for your agreement, it asks for your participation. It wants to reshape how you see, how you live, and ultimately, who you become. So let me be clear, it wasn't my childhood beliefs that converted me to my faith. It was the reality those beliefs pointed to. For years, the truths I believed didn't resonate with my lived experience. Why? Because I was human moving through seasons: infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. In those earlier stages, I could only see fragments. Many truths felt random, disconnected, or simply irrelevant. But as I matured, so did my capacity to perceive the bigger picture. The spiritual reality to which Scripture points began to echo through my everyday life. The stories hadn't changed. The truth hadn't changed. I had. And that is when transformation began, not because I encountered a different story, but because I finally began to see what the story had been pointing to all along.